Good morning and welcome to our local press review for today, Tuesday, the 1st of August 2017. And today I'm happy to have with me international law expert Ms. Eissa to comment on the news. And we will be starting off with Al Ahram newspaper, where we read President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met on Monday with a number of candidates for serving as ambassadors of Egypt abroad in the presence of Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry. During the meeting, the President stressed the importance of the role played by Egyptian diplomacy as it highlights the civilized image of Egypt and defends the interests of the homeland abroad. President el-Sisi also expressed his confidence in the ability of Egyptian diplomats to represent Egypt in a dignified manner that reflects Egypt's long history and aspirations of its people towards a better future. During the meeting, the President reviewed the constants of Egyptian foreign policy, stressing the importance of continuing to work on developing the balanced relations between Egypt and various countries of the world. Well, actually, it's important, and I'd like from your perspective, especially that you are an expert in international law and diplomacy, to tell us the importance of foreign diplomacy in not only ameliorating the image of Egypt abroad, but also in resolving conflicts.
First of all, as you said, diplomacy is one of the key tools when it comes to international relations. And as President Sisi has spoken with the coming ambassadors how to enhance Egypt's image, also we need to keep in mind a very important fact that Egypt is one of the biggest countries that have embassies in foreign countries. But if you compare that with, for instance, trade activity, you find it completely disproportionate. So for the coming days, what they should aim to work on in order to enhance international relations, work on activating that international trade as enhancing Egypt's image and bringing foreign investments within the country, as well as international treaties, because international diplomacy depends mainly on international treaties. If you're able to act as mediators or enhance having treaties bilateral when it comes to economy or even something that has military coalition, it would be very beneficial to Egypt.
Well, yes, indeed, and we will be moving to Al-Yom Al-Saba newspaper, where we read Prime Minister Sharif Ismail headed on Monday the Economic Group ministerial meeting. During the meeting, it was stressed to provide all facilities to investors and motivate them in order to contribute in increasing the volume of domestic and foreign investments and provide more job opportunities. The Prime Minister also gave his directives to present the executive regulation of the investment law in its final form to the next Economic Group meeting in preparation to submit it to the Cabinet. During the meeting, a report on the activity and financial position of the holding company for irrigation and drainage was reviewed. Well, actually, the meeting also included a variety of decisions and discussions for the performance of the government and implementation of the 2030 strategy. How do you read that piece of news?
First of all, I'm really disappointed in the fact that we're speaking, like you've said, a lot of decisions and a lot of promising coming steps in the future. Well, the law of the investment is delayed. They're still going to discuss it the next meeting, and then the Cabinet's going to have the say in it, which we need to activate it as soon as possible, because all of those decisions are pending. The law is on hold and it's acting as an obstacle. And also something else you've mentioned in the news, the free trade with Brazil and Argentina and Uruguay. This is a very good step to encourage foreign investment to be invited to the country. However, like the Prime Minister mentioned, the domestic investors and the foreign investors. They're focusing a lot on the foreign investors, but also if you enhance the domestic investment, it acts as a magnet, meaning it encourages and gives the safety sensation to the foreign investors. If the domestic investors in the country are safe and welcome and have a safe environment, it acts like an invitation for foreign investors to think, if domestically they're doing so well and there's lots of reassurance, maybe we should invest in this country like Egypt.
Yes.
So the delay is, to me, needs to be really pushed and activate the law as soon as possible.
Another important file which was discussed was the health file, where the Minister of Health also reviewed a report about the various therapeutic institutions, whether in Alexandria or in Cairo, and that's also a very important and crucial file in Egypt. So how do you see that?
Of course, it's very important, and we've always said from day one, Egypt, to solve the problem is to focus on education and health. So taking some solid steps when it comes to health, it's very beneficial. However, here in Egypt, we're very good at startups, like the idea, and we have a vision. But the thing is, planning is very accurate, but in theory, but in practice, this is the part that's worrying me. Just we need to start practicing what we're preaching. But in theory, it's very promising, and I'm very optimistic about the news, of course.
So we have very excellent strategies that need to be implemented.
Exactly. Enforce it, please.
Yes, we hope so too. And we will be moving to another piece of news from Al-Yawm Al-Saba, where we read Minister of Investment and International Cooperation, Dr. Sahar Nasr, met with Mexico's ambassador to Cairo, Jose Octavio Tripp, in the ministry's premises in Cairo. During the meeting, the minister stressed the depth of relations between Egypt and Mexico, adding that relations have witnessed a significant development in a number of sectors in recent period. The two sides also discussed increasing the Mexican investments in Egypt, which has many investment opportunities. The Mexican ambassador expressed his country's desire to increase its investments in Egypt, especially after the issuance of the new investment law, which contributes in providing job opportunities for youth and women. Now, how do you read this news in light of the Egyptian-Mexican cooperation?
First of all, the country needs to be very grateful for the effort that Dr. Sahar Nasr is doing. She's doing tremendous amount of effort to get investors and foreign investors within the country. Again, reflecting back on the news before, with the law being pending, then all her effort is going to go fly in the air. But in the light of what you've just mentioned, the foreign investors in Mexico is of course very beneficial for the country, but we're having some concerns. Like they said, they're going to work on cement and technology.
Yes.
But when it comes to technology, it's very fine. But cement is underdeveloped country. Okay, it pollutes the environment. Environmentally, it's not healthy, and all the developing country is restricting it. So we can't be acting as a trash bin for countries who are not able to produce cement in their own government, and then they come and make a business out of it in Egypt. We need to be very aware of where the international community and the developed country are heading, and to follow their footsteps, because if we didn't, we're going to fall behind. So the cement part is really worrying me. But for the number, it's like billions of dollars Mexico is going to invest in Egypt. To be optimistic and look at the bright side, more job opportunities, more ties, and maybe bilateral treaties can happen and develop in the future. So it's very promising, but yet we need the investors law to be activated as soon as possible.
And we need to look into the environment law as well for the emissions of the factories, I guess.
Exactly.
Yes, and now we will be moving to Nile news, where we read that the Public Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics, CAPMA, said on Monday that trade deficit during May 2017 was down to $2.32 billion US compared to $4.14 billion US during May 2016, a decrease of 43.8%. The CAPMAS also said in the monthly bulletin of foreign trade data that the value of exports rose by 8.8% to reach $2.28 billion US during May 2017 compared to $2.09 billion during the same month last year. It said that the increase was due to the rise in the value of some exports such as crude oil by 53.7%, ready-made garments by 20.04%, and fertilizers by 82.6%. Meanwhile, the CAPMA said that some exports have been declined in May 2017 compared to the same month last year, such as fresh orange by 4.9%, pastries and various ready food by 10.9%. 3.7%, fresh fruits by 53.3%, and furniture by 7.3%. It said that the value of imports decreased by 26.1% to reach $4.60 billion in May 2017, compared to $6.23 billion in the same month last year. The CATMAS said that the decline was due to decrease in the value of some imports, such as petroleum products by 12.1%, raw materials of iron ore, steel by 39.8%, plastic by 25.7%, and pharmaceuticals by 15.2%. And moving to Al-Yawm Al-Sabi' newspaper, we read: Iraqi army forces said that 20 Daesh terrorists were killed in an Iraqi airstrike on Tal el-Safuq near Syrian borders. Meanwhile, a senior Iraqi general predicted a relatively easy victory for his forces in the upcoming battle for the Daesh terrorist group stronghold of Tal Afar, as up to 2,000 terrorists and their families there are worn out. Major General Najm al-Jabouri estimated there were between 1,500 and 2,000 terrorists left in Tal Afar. He added that the figure may include some family members who support them. Less than 1 month after declaring victory in the city of Mosul, Iraqi forces are poised to attack Tal Afar, which is around 40 kilometers to the west of Mosul, in what will be the next major battle against terrorists. This is a very important piece of news. How do you read it in terms of what's going on in Iraq?
Okay, first of all, Tal Afar should be an easy target compared to Mosul because it has less civilians. This is the key word. The more civilians there are in the area they're trying to occupy or get terrorist group out of, the harder it is the battle. But Tal Afar have less civilians. That's why it was an easy target. However, the problem comes for the shortage of water and food. So the thing is, if the international community is not willing to cooperate with military-wise and airstrikes, maybe they can help when it comes to food shortage and water. So if they're not willing to help by force, they can do it out of charity. So
but actually this is the way they are pressuring them, because these are the families of the militants. So the way they are pressuring them to give up is by besieging them.
The thing is, here is the crucial point that they need to be very aware of. The Sunnis are not Daesh. The thing is, now the Sunni are being taken for granted when they enter the occupied territory. But the thing is, the Sunni is going to grow bitter against the move that is liberating them if they're going to be unfair to them because they're Sunni, and they're going to abide by and take the side of Daesh because they were kinder to them than the militant of the government. And this was initially the problem that got us in all of this situation, because Obama, when they created Daesh in the first place, they wanted to balance the power within Iraq because the Shia were taking over. So they did Daesh in order to support the Sunni. So the Sunni started to cheer for them, started to have roots. So if you're going to treat the root cause of the problem, don't treat it by falling into the same trap in the first place. So they need to be fully aware of not taking the Sunni by the flaw and take the storm as the Daeshi and Sunni. No, Sunnis are not Daeshi, and if you do so, it's going to trigger back the same circle that started this whole drama.
So how do you see the scenario that should take place?
The scenario that should take place, the U.S. forces started to help by airstrikes. So first, their U.S. needs to help, keep helping Iraq, and at the same time, they need to be kinder with the Sunni and separate them from the Daeshi. And it's going to be a very tough phase, but it's coming to an end eventually.
Well, and now we will be moving to the American-Russian relations, which is uptight right now, and we are moving to Al-Ahram newspaper, where we read: Russia said on Monday the U.S. had until September the 1st to reduce its diplomatic staff in Russia to 455 people, matching the number of Russian diplomats left in the United States. Earlier on Monday, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said it would be up to Washington to choose which of its diplomatic staff in Russia would be cut. He said that Russian citizens working for the United States Embassy could be among the 755 staff to go, as well as U.S. diplomats. Peskov told reporters on a conference call that Moscow did not wait until US President Donald Trump signs the new sanctions into law because there was no point in waiting after the legislation was adopted in Congress. Earlier, Russian President Vladimir Putin said 755 US diplomats must leave Russia and warned ties with Washington could be gridlocked for a long time in a move that followed tough new American sanctions. Now, how do you see this development in the American-Russian relations?
First of all, this is one of the most interesting news now on the scene. So if you're going to analyze it, let's analyze it fact-wise, like examine the fact. So if you create a timeline for the relationship starting the new presidency of Donald Trump, at the beginning of the campaign, he was having good ties with Russia, started praising them and looking forward to making good relationship with Russia in case he won the presidency, and it happened. And then they started to have a downfall where they took out the diplomatic people that are working within the US and shipped them back to Russia. What happened? Donald Trump praised Putin's behavior on Twitter and said cheering for his smart move and how he didn't reply back with the same behavior. And then later on, what we found is that they even add more restriction on them. So if anything, it shows that there is some mental instability within the President Donald Trump's behavior. But if we look within what's happening between the lines, first of all, before Trump presidency, what's happening is the relationship between Russia and the US has always been having tension in the air. Donald Trump came and he had an attempt to change that, and he failed dramatically. And then he's tried to stick to his personal opinion, having good ties with Russia. And now the end result, it's back to the same where before he gets his presidency. This only shows one thing, that one-man show in the US doesn't work. The system is more powerful than the president. The system of the US is not going to have good ties with Russia. Even when the president comes and you have aspiration to change that, it's more stronger than him. And also another point I'd like to comment on, they're criticizing Russia's behavior. It's not like, there's something called self-defense proportionality. Like, for instance, if I slap you, slap me back. You don't slap me and then I come shoot you with a bazooka. So this is what they're saying about Russia, even in international law. Yes. But this is the word of politics, and they say word of politics is not fair. However, if you look at the fact, Putin actually is doing it fairly. He's just having the same amount of diplomats that are in the US to be equal to the same diplomats amount that are present within Russia. So if you look deep within the fact, he's having it proportionate, equal. But in the shell of the news shows that he's having more severe reply than what the US did.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Eissa, for this feedback. And before we wrap today's edition, I just would like to read the last piece of news, which is from Al-Wafd newspaper, where we read the Egyptian bourse lost £1.8 billion on Monday due to selling operations of Arab and foreign investors. The market's main index, EGX 30, was down 0.45% to reach 13,419.38 points. Meanwhile, the small and medium shares index EGX 70 declined 0.11% to reach 699.53 points, and the broader index EGX 100 was down by 0.17% to reach 1,588.34 points. Trading volume reached 240.68 million shares, exchanged with 654.4 million pounds. The market's capital lost about 1.8 billion pounds to reach 705.6 billion pounds. Foreign and Arab investors tended for selling with 24.4 million pounds and 4.6 million pounds respectively. And that brings us to the end of our local press review. But stay tuned for more coming up on Nile TV International.